What is happening, guys? Cowboy here, and welcome to my starter guide for Palworld. Now, I have started over. Initially, I was playing solo, and then ended up hopping to a dedicated server with my friends, and was able to ramp all the way up to, what are we at now? We are level 23, and this is probably under 10 hours, probably closer to like 7 or 8. And once you really know what you're doing, obviously things can flow quite quickly in this game. The whole point of this video is really just sharing that info with you, giving you some lessons that I learned to help ramp things up faster and help you on your journey. And the first thing I want to talk about is base locations, because base location is fairly important. Early on, you're only going to have access to one base. After you get the base up to level 10, which you do via the base upgrade thing, you'll be able to get access to a second base. But so your initial base placement is going to be quite important, and there are a couple areas that are really, really good that I'd like to talk about. The first, we're actually going to travel right over here near the Rain Tower Syndicate entrance. I'm going to talk about a starting area over there, as well as a second potential, and then we'll talk about my current base location. Pull on out our Van Worm and ride on over. Now, what I really like about this base location right here is it's relatively close to the start. It's this area right here. If you take the Plateau of Beginnings, you can see you just follow the road, and you have a very nice open area here. You can see we have some ore deposits over there. There are some ore deposits that tend to spawn over there along that area. Plenty of access to trees nearby, plenty of access to stone. This is a very, very beginner-friendly location. The only real downside of this is you're open on multiple angles. So there's multiple areas that raids could potentially come from, though in general, your pals are going to handle that well. Now, probably one of the most important things when it comes to making a base is ensuring that you're going to have access to ore. Ore is one of the resources that, as far as I know, you can't just passively generate it in base, and so making sure you have easy access to ore is going to be very important. Ore is used to make the ingots, which is going to be used to make the steel weapons. It's going to be used to help craft the guns, the crossbow, all that stuff. It's a big tech increase, and so having easy access to that is quite important. And from this base, there's actually a pretty close spot right here. You can see we have a very nice ore deposit that's on the map, showing where that's at, just northeast of Chillet. So from the Rain Syndicate Tower, we would just follow this path, cut east, and we get over here. There's a large open plain right there. That is where Chillet spawns, so I wouldn't recommend making your base there. But there are a couple areas near here that you could consider making a base to have easy access to all this ore. Now, besides that, there is an area you can make a base that has lots and lots of access to ore, and that is where we're going to go right now. That's actually where I have my current base, where I decided to remake it when starting over on the dedicated server with the gang. I'm gonna share this spot. It's honestly, I think it's one of the best spots in the game to make a base, at least from an early base perspective, given I'm not up to the late game type stuff yet. But hopping on over to the base location, pull out our map and talk about why this area is so fantastic. Now, to get over here from the Plateau of Beginnings, you would just follow the path. You would get over to the Bridge of Twin Knights, you'd go up, and then you would make a left, and that's going to bring you right up here to this nice plateau. And what's nice here is it's very flat. We're on a cliff, so if we're going to get raided at all, it's going to come from one direction. And just look at all the ore. This is more ore than you're ever going to have to worry about. You can run out, mine it all, deposit in a box. Your base is going to use that stuff. Very, very nice spot. If this is taken, there's a couple nice flat areas. There's one that's right over there that's very nice. This one right here is very nice. If you come over here early, keep in mind that some of the stuff around here is higher level. There are some 20s, there are some 25s, but I ran over here when I was like level 6 and got the base up and running. So it is possible. You just got to be careful. The robin quills in particular, if you're cutting trees around them, they tend to get a little aggressive, so do be cautious around them. But you know, otherwise, this is a fantastic area. I cannot recommend this enough. So on that note, the next thing I want to talk about is actual base building and some things to keep in mind when building your base. Now, I've seen a lot of people talk about farming up certain things and how to farm it. And the thing is, once your base is operational, almost everything is going to be completely automated within the base. And what I mean by this is you're not going to really have to worry about anything except for starting things, saying, hey, I want to make ingots. Once you say I want to make ingots, everyone else is going to go to work and those ingots are going to get created. So, you know, for example, over here, they have a bunch of wood that's being created. I just got back on after waking up, so we're up to 2,300 wood right now. But when it comes to getting base automation, really what this is going to come down to, just picking up some stuff that they're getting done, so that's good, is going to be work suitability. The work suitability menu is going to be one of the most important things. This determines what your specific pals are good at. Kindling is going to be necessary for things that involve fire, like the furnace or the heater. Planting is going to be your pals that are going to be planting seeds. Handiwork is anything that involves building around the base. Lumbering is cutting down trees. Medicine production is producing medicine at the table. Transporting is moving stuff that is full into boxes for you. Watering, very similar to kindling, is going to be for a lot of things that involve water, like the grinder, for example. Generating electricity, you're not going to need to worry about too early. I'm up to 21, 22, and I still don't have anything that requires electricity, so don't worry about that initially. Gathering is very important in conjunction with planting. This is going to make sure they are gathering the things that you have planted, the things the harvesting, if you will, and then making sure that those get used. Mining is going to be for the people that are going to work the mine. Cooling is going to be for things like the cooling block and the fridge. And then farming, these guys just basically sit passively at the farm and they're going to pump items out for you depending on what they are. And so an easy way to do this is if you go to your PAL box management menu and we look at pals at base, what I want you to do is just scroll over them and just go down the list you see here. So I can see fire, check, that's done. Water, check. Okay, seed, check. We're not worried about electricity. He has the next three, handicraft. He has planting. He also has rocks. Over here we have mining covered. For medicine, we have medicine covered from a couple people. We have somebody that's doing frost. We have a couple of different people that are doing boxes. And then, of course, I have one person at the farm that is doing grazing. And that's what we want to look for to determine if our base is doing healthy. We have all of our work suitability categories covered. Another thing with work suitability is certain things are better at others. For example, this guy has 2 with logging. This guy has 2 with handicraft and 2 with transporting. That just means they're going to be more efficient at those tasks compared to other pals. So if I want something built, this guy right here with 2 handicraft is going to be better than this guy with 1 handicraft. But so first thing is making sure all those areas are covered. If those areas are covered, your base is doing great. Next, let's talk about base layout a little bit and some of the most important things, where kind of how I've laid them out and why. House doesn't need to be too big. Right now I have my house using as just a quick bed and then an egg incubation station inside. So first thing is chests. I like to lay out a bunch of chests near the start of the base. This being that I can open them, I can hit R, and it's going to vacuum stuff out of my chest. So I can go by each quest, each chest here, FR, 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 and then anything that I have in my inventory is going to go into its respective chest, which is really nice just from a quick organizational perspective, as long as you don't have a partner who's putting things in the wrong chests. Next, pal beds. Our pal beds up here in the corner, you can see we have 12 pals right now. Beds, this means we have 16 beds for 12 pals. I've seen a lot of people, they look at this and they're like, whoa, we're down beds. No, the beds number comes first. I have more than I need just because beds are easy to make and I wanted to make sure I had the space for them. Next, let's talk about keeping the pals happy in the base. The 2 most important things are going to be food and, of course, access to the hot spring. Now, there are a couple components to getting the food up and running. You're going to need to have plots. So I have 2 berry plots over here. A little bit later, you're going to have access to wheat plots, which we have over here. And then as long as those are being worked on, you can put some food pails and you can see we have lots of wheat and milk going into that one. Over into this one, we have lots of berries. And this is where having access to all those skills come in. Because somebody is going to plant those seeds, somebody is going to gather those seeds, and then somebody is going to transport those seeds, and it's going to put them in these feed boxes to make sure everyone's fed. So this is on a dedicated server. I went to bed, I woke up, you can see looking at the base, everyone's in good condition. People were working all night. If I go to my menu and I scroll through, sanity is looking pretty good for the most part. You're getting a little low. If somebody starts getting low, that guy's down to 68 on sanity. I'll probably grab him, swap him out with somebody else, let him take a break, pull another one on out, and let them get to work and do some stuff. Hot springs, of course, these are great for sanity. But those are the two big things. Make sure you have areas that they can deposit food to eat. Make sure they have hot springs. That's generally going to keep them happy. And then as long as you have those work suitability categories fulfilled, they're going to take care of all the automation for you. Moving on from there, some important things in terms of progression. Of course, over here, this is going to be passive wood production. Now, it's not going to be as fast as you just going down and cutting trees, but it is really nice in the sense that, you know, I went to bed, woke up, and then I have 2,400 wood available ready to go. These guys are just going to keep cutting down the wood. They're going to keep working. In a similar fashion, over here we have the stone. Now, in terms of these, I would only do one of each. And one thing that's really nice is I put them very close to the chest. And the reason for this is that way I can look. If there's 1,000 wood, I can hit acquire on it. I can look right back to the chest and I can deposit it. It's very easy to overburden yourself pulling resources from these. So it's recommended that you have a chest that is really close to them just to make that depositing process easier. Over here in your water wheel, this is where we're going to get all of our palladium from. Early on, your main sources of palladium is going to be finding the little nodes, but as you find dungeons have very, very large nodes of palladium that you can mine. But besides that, going here, turning your stone into palladium is going to be one of the main ways that it gets created. So always have this going. Just make sure you have that palladium cooking so you can have plenty of pal balls ready to go. As for the furnaces, I recommend having 2 furnaces. Generally, I have one pumping ingots full time, but since I just woke up, I got to do a fresh ore run. And then I have one pumping charcoal. Early on, charcoal isn't used all that much, but once you get into the 20s, you'll discover it is a component of gunpowder, which is obviously quite important. Want to make sure we have plenty of that, because the last thing you want is running out of guns. So I'm going to deposit that. Moving on to the farm. The farm is rather interesting. The way the farm works is you just pick something that has the ability to graze, something that can go in the farm, and then it is going to pop out a specific resource. Now, some of these are quite basic. Looking at our pal box menu, if I put this one, it's going to drop wool when it's assigned to the ranch. If I put this one, it's going to drop wool when it's assigned to the ranch. Let me see who else has farming that we can look at. I know the cats, they're going to do gold coins when they are sitting at the ranch. These guys are going to drop berries. The cows are going to do milk. But there are some really interesting ones. When I was playing solo, I got a thing that I deposited at the ranch, and it would continually produce flame organs. There's one that will continually produce the ice organs for you, or the electric organs. So farm, don't sleep on the farm. There's some very useful stuff you can get at the farm. Your wheat you're eventually going to get to, that's going to be in the same category as berries, but wheat is important to have access to flour, which flour is going to be relevant when it comes to the breeding facility. Now, the 2 things you're going to need for the breeding facility are obviously 1 monster of male and female, and then you're also going to need to make a cake. To make a cake, we get that over here at the cooking station. Right here you can see we need flowers, eggs, milk, berries, and honey. The rarest ingredient of that I've seen is the honey, and there's a couple enemies. There's actually some right around here called cinder moths that I see that drop the honey. You can also get the honey from the bee enemies, but the idea is you put 1 of each, male and female, both in there. You're going to slap a cake in there, and they're going to make a baby. Maybe you get a crossbreed, maybe not. But that is the main way to work that. And the one thing I want to point out with the breeding facility is it's quite big. So when you're planning your base, you're going to need a pretty large area to throw this on down. So just keep that in mind, because it takes up a lot more space than you would anticipate. So that is all we really need to know in terms of optimizing the base. The last thing I want to talk about is the fence. You'll notice I have a very large circular fence that goes around the entire base with a singular opening here. The main reason for this being that if there's an opening, if a raid does occur, enemies are going to come straight through here. And that's what I want. I want enemies to come through a choke point. I want them to go through this area, especially with this little hump. They might stumble a little bit. But the idea is enemies, just by default and how AI works, they're not going to attack the wall. They're going to go, oh, charge in through this area. And then that gives me a choke point where everything is going to chuck its skills and blow them up. And on top of that, having this entire thing walled in ensures that you don't have a cow that like wanders outside the base onto a cliff and then ends up getting itself killed. So now that we have covered base automation. We've talked a little bit about starting areas. The next thing I want to talk about is the tech tree and some key areas in the tech tree that I would really recommend you keep your eye on. Now, initially, you're going to want to just kind of go down the list and grab almost everything you see. Repair kit, this is going to be useful for repairing structures, but alternatively, you could always just run up to a structure, hit build, hit disassemble it, and just rebuild it. You know, that's equally as fast, so that is generally what I do as opposed to doing the repair kits. But some big things to look out for: your shields as well as parachutes. These are of course always going to be fantastic upgrades to get, and later on we're going to get upgrades to both of those with the mega shield as well as the mega glider. This is just going to give us 260 compared to 100, and this one's going to allow us to fly faster. In terms of weaponry, your ranged weapons are always going to be the strongest thing available by far. The spear doesn't come remotely close to the potency of the bow. So in general, you're going to get your old bow. After that, if you're going progression, the 3-shot bow is nice, but if you're moving fast and you get up to the crossbow is a significant upgrade over the 3-shot bow. I was very hesitant about that at first myself, and then once I got it, I was like, this is no contest. So yeah, you can see that thing walked in the base, and they're like, no, you don't belong here. You're gonna die. But so yeah, getting access to your crossbow, very, very useful. Moving on from there, obviously we start getting stuff like the Megasphere, the Sphere Workbench. In general, for the stuff like Poison and Fire, I avoided those in both playthroughs so far, just because these are going to require the specific fire as well as the poison arrows, which means you're using up your flame organs as well as your poison to craft. Keep in mind, if a pal is poisoned or on fire, they're going to take more damage, but that's a level of min-maxing I haven't found necessary. You know, just using regular arrows, considering we can tech from the old bow up to the 3-shot, up to the crossbow, and still just use regular old arrows. I found that to be the best bang for the buck in terms of your progression. And obviously from there, the next step is getting into guns, things like the musket, into the stun baton. But some really important things, you can kind of see I've already picked up some of the most important things as we've gone through the Crusher, the Hot Spring. I haven't found a need for the tropical outfits yet. I haven't gone to those regions. And on top of that, there are more advanced tropical outfits, like the cold resistant pelt and the flame resistant pelt, a little bit later on. So keep that in mind. Flame Cauldron and Toolbox, these are fantastic. They are a one-time, place them in the base, upgrade. Really nice to get access to that. Unknown stuff, this is typically going to be saddles that you need to unlock, but until you have captured that pal, you're not going to see that accessible. Which I teched up, so it looks like we're going to be making the Metal Gear soon. And we're of course going to need a water fountain to improve that, and go ahead and unlock that. I've been taking all of our team's ancient tech points, but for good reason. I'm doing all the crafting, you know. Some other stuff, the coolers as well as the heaters, these are great for helping your eggs. Cooking pot, very useful. Obviously we need to make cakes from that. Wooden defensive wall to completely go around our base. As for your skills, now the skills are very, very useful, but my thing is I tend to just rely more on the raw skills that are available to my pals. If you want to do stuff like Jolt Hog's Gloves or the necklace or Foxbark's Harness, this stuff is super cool. It is super effective. Just keep in mind, it means like, hey, you're keeping this Foxbarks in your party for a long time. You know, you want to get value out of that crafting and whatnot. But they're very low point investments, so don't feel like, you know, I'm not saying you should avoid them or anything. It's just, you know, if you really like Daydream, you get that necklace and it's going to stay by side and attack enemies in tandem with you. You know, get this and you get your harness. Moving away from tech, last thing I want to talk about is flying. Now, the Nightwing saddle, as far as I know, I think this is the first flying harness we get. But if we go down a little bit, we get a Vanworm saddle at 21. And that is what I would recommend working your way up to. These guys are significantly faster than the Nightwing in being able to ride. We can get them quite easily from the ravine entrance just right over here. But once you get access to a flying mount, this is where you're really going to see a big jump up in your capturing efficiency. And you can see it right now, all of those green orbs. These are the effigies that I turn in to increase my capturing efficiency. And having access to flying and the game being nighttime, they just pop up like little dots on the map. And so that is why, if before you worry too much about like trying to complete the whole PAL deck and capture everything, which by the way, that is the fastest way to level up by far. If you're trying to grind levels out, go through, capture all 10. Go through, capture all 10. Go through, oh, that one I don't have 10 on yet. I think the chicken I'm down to like 3 or something. Where we go? Yeah, 3. But just burning through and hitting those 10 capture bonuses, just until you hit 10, capture it when you see it. Because an important thing to keep in mind is, let's say you need flame organs. Yeah, you could kill the fire pals, but if you capture them, you also get the flame organ. So always capture up to 10, get that XP bonus. That is the fastest way to ramp up your experience by far as you play the game. And that's why I'm up to, you know, what is it, 23, while my partner is still at 14, because he sits here and he thinks he has to craft stuff, even though the entire base is automated and he doesn't go out capturing anything. But yeah, getting up to flying, that is going to be huge for you, because once you get up to flying, nighttime you can go out and hunt those stuff, and then of course we just go to our Statue of Power and spend them. While we're here talking about enhancing pals, so we can put pal souls into pals to enhance their attack, mage HP, defense, work speed. Honestly, I'm not too worried about this early on. I think late game this is going to be a lot more useful, especially since pal souls are semi-limited for the time being. And that's also kind of where the PAL condenser comes in. This is something I wouldn't worry too much about early on, but the basic idea is you take a PAL you like. Let's say I take this land ball level 4, and then I take other land balls, I crush them into paste, they get pumped into this one. I get increased HP, attack, defense, and most importantly, my primary skill also levels up. So that is how extraction works, which also more reason to capture all the PALs as opposed to killing them. But if you have something you really like, this is going to be how you're going to pump up the stats. That, or of course, using the PAL souls to get the stats even higher. So I think that covers everything I wanted to. Last thing I'll talk about, I guess, is the eggs, once you get eggs going. So eggs are a pain. You can see this one says, it seems just a little cold, despite the fact that it's surrounded by 4 fires. I've had very, very mixed luck with the eggs. I've had heaters that I put next to them, or I have had, wherever it just went, coolers that I've put next to them if they're too hot. And I found it's very iffy getting the eggs going. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. I've seen a lot of people very cautious about, you know, don't put fire near the house, bro. You're going to burn down the house. No, you know, this thing is, you know, right there, right next to the egg, and it's, you know, house isn't burning down, everything's going fine. For your house to burn down, you need to see either an enemy with fire is hitting your house or friendly fire is hitting your house. And what I mean by that is something comes in to attack your house, and then my van worm is over here and he chucks a fireball at the enemy who's right here. That fireball hits the house is going to go down. But if I were to take the van worm and I were to put him in here, he can't be assigned right now, but if I had a heater, he is just going to breathe fire on that heater, and even though that is inside the house isn't going to catch on fire from that. From pals doing tasks, your house will not get damaged. It's strictly a combat thing, which is all the more reason that we got the wall around the base to ensure that combat with lots of fireballs isn't happening next to the house. But either way, we're going to wrap things up here. That about covers what I wanted to discuss in terms of base layout, automation, finding a good spot for your base. Let's talk about stat points real fast before we wrap up. So I would highly recommend you get your weight up. Getting weight up to 1,000 means that you'd be able to fully mine 2 ore nodes before you're going to need to deposit, which is just super convenient. You know, you find nodes of palladium or nodes of ore or sulfur, whatever the case is, and you get through one and immediately you're full on weight. That's super annoying. So highly recommend getting weight up. 1,000 is a very nice threshold. I'll probably go higher as I go higher in player level, but this was the first thing I did, was I got that up to 1,000. Work speed I initially overlooked, and then I ended up finding it very useful down the line, just because if I'm out in the wild, for example, and I'm like, man, I really need, you know, things aren't good out here. I need some balls. I needed to do something. Even out on the wild, I could make a primitive workbench, and then I could pump out 10 of my spheres real fast. That work speed, that's, you know, literally triple the work speed. So getting that up to at least 200, maybe 300, definitely going to be worthwhile. Defense you don't actually level. This is just going to be based on the potency of your gear. HP, very important. The way I focused, I went weight up to 1000, work speed up to 300, and now I'm working on getting my HP up to 1000. Especially once you're around the 20 area, I think 1000 is appropriate. By 30, I think you should probably be around 1500 plus HP, just because some attacks do a lot of damage. And then stamina is very useful. Even if you're not that worried about running or climbing, stamina is also used in gathering. So getting your stamina to at least 150 can ensure that you can typically take out an entire ore node in just 2 instances of your stamina. So, you know, if you're hitting an ore node, you know, you're going to get through your entire bar, let it refill, get through the bar, node is done. So stamina is very useful, even if you're not worried about climbing or whatnot later on. But attack is, honestly, I tried leveling attack on my last character, and I don't really think it's worth it. I went from, you get 2 points of attack per leveling, and you're going to see such a insane jump moving up in weapon tiers that I really don't think the benefits from attack are that tangible compared to the benefits you're getting in weight, work speed, HP, stamina, stuff like that. But either way, we're going to wrap things up there. That about covers, I think, everything I wanted to. Kind of some closing thoughts. Go around the map, grab fast travels as much as you can. That way, you know, if I'm out here and I die, I can respawn at my base, fast travel, go pick up my stuff very easily. Obviously, as I mentioned, keep in mind the work efficiency, and the base will just run smooth. And yeah, that about covers it. Once you get all the work efficiency going, things really do flow quite well for the base. But either way, I'm going to wrap things up here for now. Thanks for coming on by. If you're enjoying Palworld, good, because there will be plenty of streams to come, and I'll catch y'all then.